She may have lost the match, but she never lost the moment. Eala's remarkable rise in the rankings after Wimbledon left fans, analysts, and even her rivals stunned. How does a fourth-round exit lead to a career-high ranking? How can a defeat become one of the biggest success stories of the summer? The answer reveals far more about modern tennis and about Eala herself than any final score ever could. To understand why this moment carried so much significance, you have to look back to the weeks before Wimbledon even began. At that point, Eala was not yet the global headline she would soon become. She was simply a determined young player putting in the hard, often unseen work that rarely earns television coverage. Traveling from tournament to tournament, battling through demanding matches, collecting valuable ranking points, and steadily closing the gap between promise and proven success. As the grass court season unfolded, her persistence began to pay off. Following an impressive campaign at the Berlin Open where she defeated top 10 opposition and proved she could compete with the world's elite, Eala climbed to world number 30 in the WTA rankings. That 5-place jump was no accident. It was the reward for an outstanding semi-final run that quietly sent a powerful message throughout the tour. This was a player ready to challenge anyone. While casual fans were only beginning to notice her, players and coaches inside the locker room already knew that Eala had become a genuine threat. The timing of that breakthrough made it even more important because Wimbledon bases its seedings on the late June rankings. Thanks to her rise, Eala entered the championships as the number 29 seed, earning the advantages that come with being among the tournament's highest-ranked competitors and confirming that her breakthrough was no longer a prediction. It was becoming reality. It was the first time in Eala's career that she had ever been seeded at a Grand Slam. And that achievement alone represented a milestone every young tennis player dreams of reaching. Qualifying for a major tournament is one thing, but earning a seeded position is something entirely different. It is the sports way of saying you have earned your place among the elite. Hidden within that accomplishment was an inspiring redemption story. Just 1 year earlier, Eala's Wimbledon campaign had ended almost before it began with a disappointing first-round exit that could easily have become just another forgotten setback. Instead, she transformed that disappointment into motivation. Over the following months, grass courts became her greatest strength as she compiled an outstanding 9-2 record on the surface and captured the WTA 125 title in Birmingham only weeks before arriving in London. By the time Wimbledon began, she was not hoping to scrape through a few rounds or simply gain experience. She arrived full of confidence, carrying genuine momentum, and backed by a career-high ranking she had first achieved earlier in the season. This is the part of an athlete's journey that often disappears beneath dramatic headlines. The quiet months of relentless work, the steady climb that attracts little attention, and the countless improvements that happen long before the cameras begin rolling. Nothing that unfolded at Wimbledon happened by accident. It was the result of months of consistent progress finally meeting the biggest stage in tennis at exactly the right moment. Outside her own camp, almost nobody expected what was about to unfold. The experts filling out tournament predictions overlooked her. Fans searching the draw for potential surprises barely noticed her name. And even Eala herself may not have imagined just how far she was about to go. She entered the All England club simply as a talented player in excellent form, making her Grand Slam debut as a seeded competitor, carrying a world number 30 ranking and the confidence that came from earning every step of her rise. Yet rankings have a curious way of hiding the full story. They can remain almost unnoticed for months, quietly reflecting steady progress before one unforgettable tournament suddenly reveals to the entire world just how much a player has truly grown. For months, rankings can barely move, quietly reflecting steady progress without attracting much attention. Then in the space of a single unforgettable week, everything can change. Eala was about to experience that transformation in the most dramatic way imaginable. Just 2 matches into her Wimbledon campaign, she found herself on a collision course with the defending champion, a showdown that would do far more than define her tournament. It would completely reshape the trajectory of her season. The stage was perfectly set. The number 29 seed had arrived with confidence, but what followed would turn a promising run into one of the biggest stories in world tennis. Every breakthrough has a defining moment. A single match that forever separates what came before from everything that follows. For Eala, that moment arrived on July 4th on one of the sport's most iconic stages. Standing across the net was the reigning Wimbledon champion, world number 3, and one of the most dominant players of her generation. On paper, the script seemed obvious. This was supposed to be where Eala's inspiring run finally came to an end. Instead, she produced the greatest victory of her career, stunning the defending champion with a remarkable 7-6, 6-2 triumph. The score alone does not fully capture the drama. The opening set was a nerve-wracking battle decided in a tense tiebreak where every point carried enormous pressure and either player could have cracked. Eala refused to blink. She matched the champion shot for shot, survived the relentless pressure, and emerged with the first set. From that point forward, the momentum belonged entirely to her. Rather than simply protecting her lead, she raised her level even higher, dominating the second set 6-2 with fearless shot-making, relentless composure, and the confidence of a player who truly believed she belonged on that court. It was not a lucky break or the result of an off day from her opponent. It was a powerful statement that Eala had arrived among the sports elite. The victory also made history as she became the first Filipina in the Open era to reach the fourth round at Wimbledon, accomplishing the feat by defeating the very player defending the championship. Yet what made the moment unforgettable was not only the result flashing across the scoreboard. It was everything that followed. In her emotional on-court interview, Eala spoke with humility, gratitude, and genuine sincerity, earning admiration from fans around the world. In that instant, people were not simply celebrating a remarkable upset. They were witnessing the emergence of a new star whose grace, confidence, and resilience proved she was ready for the biggest stages tennis has to offer. The celebration that followed reached far beyond center court. As Eala walked off the grass, she was met with a thunderous standing ovation, pausing for a heartfelt moment to place her hand over her heart before forming a heart shape with her hands to thank the crowd. It was a simple gesture, but one that instantly connected with tennis fans around the world. In that moment, Wimbledon had discovered a new fan favorite from Quezon City, a city that had never produced a Grand Slam quarterfinalist and a nation that had rarely found itself at the center of tennis's biggest stage. That context is impossible to ignore. This was not the latest success story from a country with a long history of producing elite champions or a well-established pipeline of Grand Slam contenders. This was unexplored territory. By becoming the first Filipina in the Open era to reach the fourth round of Wimbledon, Eala was rewriting history with every match she played. Yet the victory over the defending champion meant far more than an emotional breakthrough. It became the foundation for everything that followed. Every ranking point earned, every round advanced, and every dollar in prize money steadily pushed her toward a career-changing milestone that would soon surprise even the analysts who spend their careers studying the mathematics of the rankings. At the time, however, nobody was talking about statistics, projections, or ranking formulas. The image that stayed with the world was much more powerful, a 21-year-old standing on center court with tears in her eyes, overwhelmed with emotion after defeating one of the greatest players in the game. That was the turning point. That was the instant the narrative changed forever. Eala was no longer simply a talented young player enjoying an impressive tournament. She had become one of the defining stories of Wimbledon, inspiring millions and capturing the attention of the global tennis community. But the tournament still had another chapter to write. Just 2 days after the biggest victory of her career, Eala returned to center court for an even greater test against the number 13 seed Jasmine Paolini, a former world number 4, Grand Slam finalist, and one of the tour's most experienced competitors. Despite entering Wimbledon after an inconsistent season, Paolini possessed the composure and championship experience that often separates contenders from dreamers in the second week of a major. Everyone knew this challenge would demand Eala's very best. It would be her toughest examination yet. And although her unforgettable run at Wimbledon would eventually come to an end, what happened in that match would only strengthen the growing belief that Eala's breakthrough was not a one-time surprise but the beginning of something much bigger. Eala's remarkable Wimbledon campaign came to an end with a fiercely contested 3-set defeat to Jasmine Paolini. The final score of 6-4, 4-6, 6-3 told the story of a genuine battle rather than a one-sided defeat. Eala refused to back down, claiming the second set and forcing one of the tour's most experienced players to fight for every point. In the decisive moments, however, Paolini's experience, composure, and ability to handle pressure ultimately made the difference. Yet what happened after the match was perhaps even more revealing than the result itself. There was no sense of disappointment or frustration among fans. Instead, the reaction became even more supportive because this defeat confirmed that Eala's stunning victory over the defending champion had not been a lucky break or the result of an opponent having an off day. She had backed up that breakthrough by pushing a former Grand Slam finalist to the limit on the biggest stage in tennis. She belonged among the sports elite, and the world had finally seen it. During her on-court interview, Paolini spoke warmly about the experience of competing at Wimbledon, saying it was something truly special and praising the incredible atmosphere inside center court. Her words reflected respect for the occasion, rather than celebration at her opponent's expense. There was no gloating, no dismissive attitude, only appreciation for the level of tennis both players had produced under immense pressure. For Eala, the disappointment of seeing her Wimbledon dream end was undeniable, but it was matched by an even greater feeling of accomplishment. Regardless of the final score, she had already secured her place in history by becoming the first Filipina in the Open era to reach the fourth round of Wimbledon and the first Filipina ever to be seeded at any of the 4 Grand Slam tournaments. Those achievements could never be taken away. The record books had already been rewritten before the final handshake at the net. Across social media and throughout the tennis world, the conversation quickly divided into 2 powerful themes that ultimately complemented one another. One side celebrated the historic significance of Eala's incredible run, with fans, journalists, and former players treating the defeat as little more than the closing chapter of a career-defining breakthrough. Rather than focusing on the loss, they focused on everything she had accomplished, recognizing that Wimbledon 2026 had introduced the world to a fearless young competitor whose best tennis was still ahead of her. The other side of the conversation was far more analytical. Tennis fans, journalists, and ranking experts immediately began calculating what Eala's remarkable Wimbledon run would mean for her position in the WTA standings. Every round she survived and every elite opponent she defeated had added valuable ranking points, and speculation quickly spread that she was on the verge of another career milestone. Within days, those predictions became reality. When the updated rankings were released, the number beside Eala's name stunned even those who had followed every match of her unforgettable campaign. This was no longer simply the story of a promising young player enjoying a breakthrough tournament. It had become one of the biggest ranking stories of the summer. Her run to the 4th round earned her 240 valuable WTA ranking points, increasing her total to 1,666 points and lifting her to a projected career-high ranking of world number 28. In doing so, she surpassed her previous best ranking of number 29 and reached the highest position of her career. At first glance, the headlines seemed almost impossible to understand. How could a player lose a match and still celebrate the greatest ranking achievement of her life? To casual fans it appeared contradictory, but the answer lies in the way professional tennis measures success. The WTA ranking system operates on a rolling 52-week format, with a player's best 18 tournament results contributing to their overall ranking. That means rankings are not determined by a single victory or a single defeat. They reward consistency, sustained excellence, and deep runs across the calendar. Every match Eala won during her Wimbledon journey, from the confident early victories to the pressure-filled battles and most importantly her stunning upset over the defending champion, added crucial points to her season total. By the time she reached the 4th round, she had already secured every ranking point she had earned through those victories. Her loss to Jasmine Paolini did not erase those achievements. It simply marked the end of a tournament that had already transformed her career. That is why Wimbledon 2026 became such a defining moment. It was not the defeat that changed Eala's future. It was everything she accomplished before that final handshake. The rankings simply confirmed what the tennis world had already begun to realize. Eala was no longer an emerging prospect with exciting potential. She had become a genuine member of the sports elite, and her rise to world number 28 was not a reward for one magical week, but the recognition of months of relentless improvement finally coming together on tennis's biggest stage. Her defeat simply marked the point where she stopped collecting additional ranking points at Wimbledon. In many ways, the most important work had already been done before that final match even began. By reaching the 4th round, Eala had already secured the ranking boost that would redefine her career. Entering Wimbledon, she had earned more than $871,000 in prize money during the season, and her impressive run in London added another 240 valuable WTA ranking points. Under the tour's point system, a 4th-round finish is worth 240 points, while a quarterfinal earns 430, a semifinal 780, and a runner-up finish 1,300. Every victory carries increasing rewards, and Eala had taken 4 significant steps forward in a single tournament. She collected convincing early victories, produced the signature win of her career by defeating the defending champion, and then pushed a former Grand Slam finalist to 3 hard-fought sets before her remarkable journey finally came to an end. As the dust settled, the conversation surrounding her performance evolved from simple admiration into genuine debate. Many fans celebrated the extraordinary achievement of a 21-year-old who had been outside the world's top 100 not long before yet was now firmly established inside the top 30 with tremendous momentum heading into the North American hard court season. Others became fascinated by the apparent contradiction of the story, a player losing her final match while simultaneously achieving the highest ranking of her career. It became a perfect example of how the WTA ranking system rewards sustained excellence rather than judging a season by a single result. Regardless of which side of the discussion people found themselves on, one thing was undeniable. Wimbledon had transformed Eala's career. Few tournaments create such an emotional roller coaster where disappointment on the scoreboard is immediately followed by celebration in the rankings just days later. At the center of that remarkable sequence stood a young player who had delivered the finest tennis of her life. Yet behind every ranking milestone, every headline, and every viral highlight is an athlete trying to make sense of an experience that changes everything. In the hours after her Wimbledon campaign ended, Eala gave fans a glimpse into that perspective. Reflecting on her breakthrough, she told reporters that the week in general would add to her confidence. It was a simple statement, but one that carried enormous meaning. Just 12 months earlier, she had exited Wimbledon in the opening round. Now she had become one of the tournament's biggest stories. Rather than dwelling on the disappointment of losing to Jasmine Paolini, Eala focused on the bigger picture. She understood that this journey was never defined by one final score. It was defined by the confidence she had earned, the history she had made, and the belief both in herself and throughout the tennis world that she truly belonged among the game's very best. What mattered most to Alex Eala was not simply the results she had achieved over 2 unforgettable weeks at Wimbledon, but what those results had proven to her under the intense pressure of the sport's biggest stage. Looking back on the tournament, she focused less on the disappointment of her final defeat and more on the personal growth that came with it. There are so many positives, she said when reflecting on her Wimbledon campaign, and one of them is how she handled pressure, noting that there is pressure every week and that the more you want to win, the more pressure comes along with it, and that she was happy with how she faced it head-on and kept cool when she needed to control her emotions. Those are not the words of an athlete consumed by a single loss. They are the words of someone who understands that great careers are built on moments exactly like this one.